This is Oscar Bevis for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on the zone. Frank Smith joins me. Thanks for giving me some of your time, mate. Quite a lot, to be fair. I've got to say, with the Christmas tree just in the background, it's a little quite festive.
Wonderful, isn't it?
Is it too early?
It's a lovely tree as well.
Is it
Big
too
tree.
early to have a Christmas tree up now? November?
I don't think so. Do you know what? Last few years, I've never had a Christmas tree up, so I'm not really festive.
Have you not?
I've been away a lot, mate. You know, and I go away and then I go like so. But I like the idea of festivities. Yeah. I do like the idea. I'm looking forward to growing a bit older, sitting by a fire, you know, drinking red wine with a Christmas tree up in the corner. That excites me.
For now, it's just cutting around the world, making deals, doing business.
Basically, yeah. Basically.
Vegas GP, by the way, I want to talk about that because, mate, I absolutely love F1. I was seriously jealous looking at that trip. It looked unbelievable.
Yeah, it was very good. I mean, may sound like a stupid comment, but very, very well organised, the Vegas Grand Prix. Had to have no complaints. Amazing event. Went with some partners of ours, Oakview Group, who are doing a lot in our space. Aston Martin as well was having a look at the car, you know, just seeing they were doing everything the right way. That was good, really good. Saw one car go round and that was about it. You know, when it goes, and then...
It is, yeah, I can imagine in person, like I like F1 and I'm watching it on the TV.
It's much more hospitality
than
anything else.
Just like a few drinks, little balcony, Las Vegas.
Basically my kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, all the works. Birmingham, we just saw the final face-off between Sonny Edwards and Yafai. Very respectful between the two of them this week at least. It seems to be everyone else around them that wants to take the little digs.
Yeah, I think there's always been that respect, you know. It was an intense face-off, you know, but there's a huge respect between the two of them because they've known each other for years. They've been around each other for years. This isn't something new. They've been in GB together. They've been through so much. So there is huge amounts of respect, and they both know how good each other are. And it just shows that not all fights need that spite or hate to be built into something big. You know, because we're going to have a great audience in there on Saturday night. Look, there's been a bit of back and forth with the brothers, but, you know, that adds a little bit to it. But you just got two guys who know how good each other are, and they know what they're in for.
Does it come with a tinge of disappointment when you see Charlie and Cal beef? Because 8 years ago, that would have been a fight just as big as the one that we've got now.
Yeah, but things happen. Things don't happen for a reason. You know, that's life. If you spend too much time looking back on things, it didn't make sense at the time. It was a long time ago. I can't even remember it. But
back in the days when you had hair.
I did. I had more hair. I've still got a little bit. But yeah, look, they both. Well, Cal had a tremendous career, some huge fights. Charlie's still going with his, you know. So, but we're focused on the main event here. It's a great main event and excited for it.
At 31 years old, and I know he's only had, 8 or 9 professional fights. Might sound like a bit of a stupid question, but would this be considered a must-win fight for Galal?
Look, I think he's taken a proper fight early on in his career, but he's a tremendous standout amateur. He didn't do all of those 4 6-rounders that other fighters did. He went straight into 10-rounders, wanted competitive fights, wanted real fights, and that's what he's in the sport for. Look, 31, he's probably a young 31. You know, most people wouldn't realise Galal Yafai is 31 years old. But I think for him, it will be must-win. But I think, you know, he's testing himself against the best. You know, Sonny Edwards, undoubtedly, outside of the Bam Rodriguez, he's the best. You know, he's moved now, but Sonny's a special fighter. We know that. But Galal Yafai is a special fighter. What he's done in his career, winning the Olympic gold, and that's why we're so excited for the fight. You know, and there's no shame for either man losing. Like, one of them's going to lose unless it's a draw, you know.
And knowing our luck, it will be a draw.
Yeah. But if it's a great fight and it's a draw, we do it again. Maybe we do it again even if someone loses. Maybe it's such a good fight, we do it again. Like, you know, anything's possible. But these are the kind of fights we need to make.
Yeah. Who do you think goes in as favourite?
I think it's 50-50. It's always difficult when you promote both fighters, you know, but at the end of the day, our job is to deliver the best possible opportunities for the people we represent, and that's what we've done here. It's the best fight possible.
Yeah. I love it. It's a wicked fight. Just a quick one on Sonny's little, I don't want to use the word rant, but I know he done a bit with Coogan yesterday on IFL, and he expressed a little bit of disappointment at the fact that the press conference was moved to 7 p.m. I think him taking a pillow to the press was kind of his little, what do you call it, his little way of protesting, I guess. Was it moved to accommodate with the Derek Chisora press conference that Frank Warren had in Manchester at 1, 2 o'clock? Was that kind of the way things panned out yesterday?
And the public element as well. We wanted to do it later. But look, we can always sit here and go, we take things, it probably was a little bit too late, you know. But it wasn't done in any way from a malicious standpoint. But I've seen Sonny today. I speak to him all the time. You know, I think he's all right, you know, with it. But Sonny's an outspoken character, isn't he, as well? You know. But yeah, next time probably won't be doing. But then you look at the press conferences in Saudi, for example. They're at 9, 10 o'clock at night. You know, so everyone does things differently, and it's what you're used to as well.
Is it a bit of a sign of the times as well that?
Look, we want to.
There's no intentional clash between Matcham and Queensbury.
No, it's not so much. Regardless of whether we had a relationship with them, you still wouldn't want to take media. Like, there's going to be media taken away otherwise from a press conference. We want to get this out to the most amount of people. So do they. You know, so you don't really want to clash, regardless of whether we're competitors or not. It doesn't really make sense. We have done in the past, I'm sure, but you know, when you got two fights that draw media attention, which Chisora does, in all fairness to him, and this fight does as well, you would like to try and work a way of doing them separately.
Yeah. What do you think of Chisora, Wallen?
I think, like, I would have been very open about Chisora's career. Like, Chisora is one of the few people in the sport that, outside of the sport, I've spent a lot of time with and become a close friend. And I've always said to him, like, what are you doing it for? Like, what do you want from the sport? I.e., you've made a load of money and you've been in the biggest fights possible. He's fought everyone, hasn't he? And he's fought in stadiums. He's sold out. He's done pay-per-view shows. He's been in back-to-back big fights.
He's fought in about 10 different countries.
Yeah, I know. And he's had 48 fights, is it? So it's like, what do you want from it? And I would have been the one selling, you know, like before the Joyce fight, I would have said, should retire. He went and beat Joe Joyce. You know, like, so I think we can all have a view, but it's what he loves. It's what he wants to do. It's all he knows. And he always seems that he comes back, doesn't he? You know, like, he beat Joe Joyce. He was a big outsider in that fight in many people's eyes. But yeah, look, it's an interesting fight. We'll see what happens. Wallen, you know, he's been in with some big names as well. You know, so interesting.
Would you have preferred to see Jarrell Miller? I know there was a few problems.
I think the build-up would have been big, wouldn't it? You know, I think a lot of people would have preferred that. I don't know the details behind it. But yeah, it's boxing, isn't it? You know, there's lots of things you'd prefer in life.
On Conor Benn, there'll be no appeal from UCAD over the National Anti-Doping Panel's decision. Can we finally say now it's done?
We can. Whether people accept that is another thing.
There was kind of a lot of, I don't want to use the word celebrating, but perhaps a little bit of relief in Philly, but then you still had the possibility of an appeal hanging over. So is this now done?
Yes. You know, but look, I think the truth is he's done everything people asked him to do. He's gone and done it. Whether people like the answer, like, it's like the only outcome people would have been happy with is if he came out guilty and would have got a ban. Regardless, they asked him to go and deal with it with the British Boxing Board of Control and UCAD. He did that. The UCAD put it onto the NADP, as they do with their cases. They're an independent body. NADP made a decision. UCAD chose not to appeal it. It's done. Whether people like the fact or not, it's done. And it's not on jurisdiction. He won his case. And it's funny because people say, you've got to go and deal with it that way. He goes and deals with it. He wins the case. Everyone's like, well, you know, it's obviously he had a silent bow, this, that, the other. It's all, no, he did what you asked him to do. You know, and other fighters have been through much quicker processes and all forgotten about. You know, look, I think we can sit here and say, was everything handled exactly the right way? Was the approach with everything completely correct? Probably not, right? Can we learn from it? Yes, 100%. But can you, and can you dislike him? Can you dislike, you know, for things that were said? Sure, if that's what you want to do, if that's an opinion, right? You don't have to like him, and you don't have to like the way everything was handled, right? But at the end of the day, he went and did what was asked of him. And he did that, and he's clear. So there's no more questions. Again, you can have an opinion of not liking him, fine. But he's done what you asked.
I was saying this to Eddie yesterday, the whole thing about has he served a silent ban?
Well, they would come out.
And Eddie said, at some point, if he had, just say he had, at some point it would come out. So we'd be sitting on a ticking time bomb of a lie. Yeah. And then there'd be that embarrassing point where people go, yeah, you were lying.
The NADP would have come out and said, this is the response to the case. They came out and said, he's clear. and there's been no, like, the NADP, not us, the independent panel who are specialists within this field. Let's be honest, you, me, this person here, know bugger all about these things. That's why people are there to do this job. And it's not a boxing panel. It is an independent panel that handle things in boxing, athletics, football, across a whole host of sports that are put in place to make a decision, that are specialists within this field, that know what they're talking about. Like, what, now you're doubting them? Okay, well, where does it end?
Yeah. In terms of Conor's next fight, what do you want to see out of Eubank and Barrios? I know the majority will think, well, obviously Eubank's a massive fight, big build-up, a fight we were robbed of last time. But I guess from your point, in terms of guiding a fight, the potential of Conor Benn getting his hands on a world title is also huge. So, for you, Barrios or Eubank, what's your preference?
No, look, I think I've always been open. I've always said I want to see the Eubank fight. But I think that's a personal piece where I've spent so much time on it. I've spent so many hours of so many days, for so many months, of so many years now. And the first time
flicking through paperwork, signing bits and getting it all.
The first time we made that fight, it took 12 weeks to do. The first time that fight was made, right? And that was back forth every night on phone call, like non-stop, right? And there's obviously a bit of a meaning to me with it because of the, and I think it's the biggest, one of the biggest fights out there in British boxing. But looking from his standpoint, like Conor's standpoint, he is someone who can rule British boxing for a long time in terms of he is now, outside of Joshua and Fury, the biggest star in British boxing. Whether people like it or not, whether it's for the reasons, he has been spoken about every day for the last 2 years.
He's only fought twice in America.
In every publication. All the questions to everyone, not just us, have been about Conor Benn. So whether people like it or not, he is now probably the third biggest star. He's bigger than Eubank, right? And I'm honest enough to say, prior to the Eubank-Benn fight the first time around, Chris was bigger, right? Had a bigger profile, done more, They're in different parts of their career where Chris is 35, he probably got a year left of fighting, I think, and he wants to make as much money as possible, I guess, in as few, if I was representing, I'd say in as few fights as possible, rightly so. Conor is 26, he has got 8 years, 5 years, whatever the time frame is, whatever he decides it to be, to go and, be involved in massive fights. He's not in a rush for that huge payday. So Conor's in a better position than Chris. And I would still, it's just my take Matchroom out of it, you're asking Frank Smith as an individual, what fight would he like to see? I would love to make the Eubank fight. But from Conor's perspective, he doesn't have to do that. And if people are, look, I've had conversations with Ben Shalom, I've spoken to him quite regularly over the last few days, I met him in London. It's a clear as day 50, well, actually some people would now say Conor Benn's the bigger name. But I think it's 50-50 fight, right? And I don't think many people could ever question that. But, he's going to have to try and do a job on his side. I don't know whether the fight happens. I'd love to see it happen. Whether it does or not, who knows? But I think the Barrios fight's a brilliant fight as well, and I think Conor Benn beats him and becomes a world champion. And who would have said that? When he was 18, 19 years old, And the journey he's been on and the things he's been through are quite insane. But we're nearly there.
Yeah, it would be mad when you look at the Conor Benn that fought Cedric Payno for the first time at York Hall. You mentioned your meetings with Ben Shalom. I know, you two have been around each other many a time, but was it a little bit frosty in any sense? Or
I've always said in every interview I've done, I don't hide my feelings about people. I'm not a liar. I'm not two-faced.
So I feel like there was a point where you were both kind of saying things about each other, and then it stops a little bit, and then it's...
Yeah, but, the thing I get a lot of is I respond to questions, right? I never come on here and go, firstly, let me tell you about... Yeah. Or I never say to you, please ask me a question about this. I respond to your questions, right? And sometimes people think my answers or my opinion is from a space of just talking down. I don't care about talking about him, this person, the next person. If you ask me a question, I will answer it. I never shy away from a question. I never ask you to remove anything from an interview. I never ask you not to ask me a question about something. And I will give you my honest opinion. I saw one the other day where he said, I responded about his Sky deal, and I just gave my opinion on it. It doesn't mean it's right. Well, I don't care. Don't worry about my opinion. I'm not saying anything, untoward. I'm just giving an opinion. my meetings with him, as I've always said, I can sit down and have. There's so many people in the sport I've worked with that I'm sure I've said things about or not got on with or don't get on with. But I will sit and have a conversation. If it's for the good of the business and the fighters, mate, forget everything else. I don't care. You can say whatever you want about me. I'm sure lots of people have said things about me. I'll still sit down with you. At the end of the day, people may think it's shallow. We're in it to create a business that's successful and make money for fighters and make money. That's the reality of it. So if that means sitting down with someone you don't overly like, well, that's life, isn't it? And you don't have to like everything I said about him. He doesn't. I don't have to like. He said a lot of things about me. Maybe not in public, but I hear things. Who cares? I don't care. I'm a big boy, And at the end of all this, when it's all over, I'll be in the sun somewhere, drinking pina coladas on a beach, enjoying my life
Next to Ben Shalom.
Yeah, no, but I don't take it too seriously.
No, you are right. It is us asking said questions.
Yeah, but like
the Skydale question that I asked you in Philly was me proposing that
but
question.
I'll give you an answer. And again, people are too soft in this world we live in now, where they get upset about what people say. It is what it is. Get on with it. Don't worry. Also, don't worry about my opinion. I'm irrelevant, aren't I? If you're going to continue your deal, if you're happy, if you're doing a good job, if everyone thinks, don't worry about what Frank Smith says. So why does anyone care what I say? Don't get it.
We'll see. The view count will be the judge of that. Final one. This February 22nd rumoured card.
It'd be great if that happens. I've seen the rumours.
Not going to lie, that would be the best card, certainly in my lifetime. Is that a possibility?
You are only 12, though.
That's also true. That card, that's like 5 or 6 headline fights. I mean, I guess Bivol, Beterbiev rematch would be at the top, and then Daniel Dubois, Joseph Parker. There are going to be some fighters who ain't going to be happy with being 4th or 5th down on the card, because we're talking about like 5, 6 potential real big main eventers.
If that card is true, it is, I agree, probably the best card that's ever going to be delivered. I think, yes, a lot of fighters will all... But that's the great thing about it. They could all be main event fights if that fight card is true. So let's wait and see. I'm excited.
The way you said if that fight card is true about 10 times makes me think that fight card might be true.
If that fight card... What do you want me to say? I'm neither confirming nor denying.
No, there's like a...
I don't know. I don't get involved with these...
Not even with your man Dimitri at the top?
Well, I don't know. Is he fighting? I don't know. I haven't been told.
That fight done.
Not me.
It's got to be that fight, isn't it?
Great fight. If it happens, he deserves it.
Why have you gone all mystic mode on me?
Ooh, I've always been mystic. I don't give away any rumours.
True, you're not like Eddie. But in terms of them fights, you can sit here and say that none of them are over the line, like Boots Ortiz, for example, Shakur Stevenson, Floyd Schofield. None of these fights are...
Nothing's done until it's done. Until it's announced, nothing's done.
All right. Well, I might as well give up on that one.
Yeah, give up.
What about Dubois Klitschko?
Dubois Klitschko? Oh, well, Klitschko called him out. There's always been a thing around Klitschko about coming back, I think, at 45 or 46 or something, and becoming the oldest heavyweight champion in the world.
Do you think that's Mike Tyson inspired?
I would rather see Klitschko Jake Paul. Imagine the job Klitschko would do on Jake Paul.
I'd rather see Bellew Jake Paul.
Oh, that'd be a great fight. Bellew, not a great fight. I mean, sorry, Bellew. I'll take that back. I didn't mean it that way. I meant that would be.
Tony.
I meant that
Tony.
would be great because Bellew would absolutely destroy him. But like all respect to Jake Paul for what he's done, by the way, because he's an entertainer, isn't he? It's like WWE. It's not real boxing. Let's be honest. But respect him for what he's done as a business. Because you cannot say anything differently.
Can I just read this? I don't know if you've seen it, right? So we put a post on the Stomping Ground's Instagram. It was just a clip from my interview with Eddie at the Pat Brown Media Lunch, where Eddie was talking about Nikisa from MVP and his comments about Bellew. And Eddie was saying, look, he doesn't really understand what Bellew's achieved in the sport. I can't imagine he puts such a praise on winning the British, Commonwealth, European world title. MVP replied to this comment, right, from their official account. Eddie thinks this is Jake, by the way, but he says, with all respect, and I may get in trouble for this, you are not one speck of our king, Jake Paul. Don't mention him and yourself in the same sentence. Thank you, at Eddie Hearn.
Look, the whole Nikisa Jake Paul is so delusional. Like, I said to Nikisa, fair play, amazing event, right? Like, it was an amazing... If you take it for what it is, it was a spectacle. Do you know what I mean? Like, step back about Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, terrible, right? But step back, amazing spectacle. Like, congratulations for what you've done. But look at the ego. Like, they put out a Thanksgiving post with Nikisa at the end of the table in the Thanksgiving post. And he talks about, Nikisa talks about ego and, you know, this, that, the other. That's all it's about. You know, like, look at what these guys have done. Quite scary. But fair play to them for what they have done from a business perspective.
Yeah. Is this all Matchroom's fault, considering Jake Paul's debut was on a Matchroom show?
Yeah, but look at what Anderson Gibb did.
I know.
You know, look, I mean, his
Shout
body
out
shot, the
Gibb
body
last
shot
night.
he threw. Mate, he looks slick.
Are you telling me that you've been keeping up with Misfits?
No, I saw a clip of it on DAZN. But, mate, I'm looking forward to Gibb Jake Paul rematch.